Welcome, guys. Welcome to another session of Market Snapshot. I hope you are all geared up for the opportunities that will be coming in. Remember, we had some shutdown, US government shutdown that lasted 4 days, but then we are back after Congress passed the bill, passed the spending package, and President Trump was able to approve it. So there's some Fed agencies that had been affected, but now they've resumed normal operations, and we'll see what plays out. However, there's still some. Today we'll be seeing ADP and ISM services PMI as an alternative to NFP. I know Friday everyone had expected NFP news to be reported. Let's see how that plays out. But in the meantime, let's look at the labor market, because ADP non-farm employment change gives us insights as to how the private sector is performing, right? So it's the estimated change in the number of employed people during the previous month. So this is data for January, excluding the farming industry and the government. So you want to see private jobs, how many were created. Now, looking at the previous number, it was 41K. Traders are expecting that this number will have shot up to 46K. That's a good thing for the economy, right? That means the US economy is doing well, it's spurring growth, right? And as a result, companies are employing people. So that would be a very positive one. However, we look out for the actual number at 4:15 p.m. Now, this is what will determine how the economy is doing. And as a result, we will see the reaction from the dollar. So in a situation where the number comes out higher here, maybe 50K, the higher the number, the better. Any number higher than 46K is a very good number. So the dollar will strengthen. Any number weaker than this one, let's say 40K, 44, anything lower than this will be bad for the dollar. So we will see the weakening of the dollar, right? So that means if you're trading USD CHF sell, USD CAD sell, USD JPY sell, GBP USD buy, Euro USD buy. So we anticipate to see how that will play out at 4:15. The other news that will be coming out is at 6 p.m., which is the ISM services PMI. Basically, this is a survey of purchasing managers. They want to see, basically there are some conditions like how is employment, right? Are you guys employing people? Like how's production? Like, are you scaling up your production? You see, when you're scaling up production, that means you've received some new orders, and that's why you're doing that, right? And as a result, you'll need to employ guys to fit in with the new structures of production. Are you getting new orders? Have you expanded your markets, right? Maybe if you're depending on the US market, have you sought other markets outside? And this is where now you remember the America First idea by Trump is to make sure that the US is an export country, right? So US commodities become cheaper and they're able to compete with Chinese products and all that. I don't know whether it's something that is visible, but then if you look at the tariffs, that's the end game of the tariffs. The guys can migrate their jobs, their factories to the US, so that they're not exposed to the tariffs. Anyway, let's see all those, how they play out. This is a very interesting year because of the midterms, where if Democrats take over Congress, wow, it will be a bad one for Trump. And you've had conversations around vote of no confidence. He could be kicked out of the White House. So it's an interesting year packed with volatility, and of course gold and silver will show us the way later as we go into the midterms. Prices, how are the prices? Have prices gone up? Inflation is not good. Long-term inflation is not good for any business, because people end up not buying your products. I give you an example. If you're used to taking a loaf of bread, today, this month, it was $7. Next month, $7.5. The other month, $8. Keeps going up. At some point, you'll be like, hey, let's take a pause. I mean, prices of bread are going up, but my income is not going up. So I'll have to forego some stuff. So now look at it from a larger scope, right? Like cars and all these other things. So it's very important that, and this is where the Fed has to come in and see, okay, why are prices going up? Is it because of too much money in the economy? In that case, let's hike the interest rate so that guys have less disposable income, right? Could it be because of other things? If it's, let's say, weather, well, that's something the Fed cannot intervene, right? But anything in terms of money supply, then the Fed will definitely come in. Supplier deliveries, are you getting supplier? Like China. If you look at what Trump is doing, like oil, right? The US was probably depending more on what's happening somewhere in the Middle East, maybe Saudi Arabia, oil and all that. Now, they've sourced oil from Venezuela, right? We know what happened last month. So, the US, in terms of supply, it knows that even if it went to attack Iran, it will not be affected. I mean, they've sorted out oil for the economy. So that presents an opportunity for the US that it will keep the US economy will keep working, keep working until as long as, sorry, it will keep working as long as the oil supply is coming in, right? Yeah, and inventories, like what do you have in store, like do you have enough stuff to supply, so the ISM services PMI gives you a lot, right? But now there are some of this is basically more on the manufacturing when it comes to production. But when it comes to services, like how are lawyers doing, pharmacists, the service industry, how is it performing? So here we come into the forecast. According to investors, traders, they're saying the forecast is 53.5, which is lower than the previous month. This was the December number. So this is the January number. The actual number is what we'll be looking at. If this number comes out higher than this, then it's good for the dollar. Why? It means purchasing managers were quite optimistic that things are panning out, right? They can only be optimistic in an economy that is doing well. They can see it, they know, like, prices are in a certain level. Employment, we've had to employ some few guys because of the demands, in our auditing and all that. We've received so many companies that want us to audit, all that, yeah. If you're looking at a purchasing manager in an auditing firm, yeah. So anything higher than this 54, 55, that's good for the dollar. However, any number lower than this 53.5, 53, 52, anything lower, then that's not good for the dollar, because it brings some negativity, like, okay, purchasing managers were not so optimistic about the economy. The good thing is it's still above 50. And if this number was to go below 50, right, then that's where we could see some chaos, right? That's a line. That's a line where guys are like, we are not doing so well. We really are not doing so well. So that's what we are expecting at 6 p.m. Expect these two, because they're talking about mostly the labor market, right? And remember, labor, employment is key in any economy, right? Why? If guys are not employed, we all know the consequences: social evils, crime, all these things that happen with lack of jobs. But if guys are employed, then there's money supply. There's something called consumer spending. Guys have money to spend, and money that is spent in an economy means, if you're a business guy, you'll be like, hey, guys have money to spend in the US. Why don't I invest there? Because I'll never lack. And that's why, like, most people want to go to the US. Why? That level of money supply. The assumption is that, like, if you look at the African context, you can work at any place if you're ready to take the small bucks, right? As you build up, maybe you learn, go into nursing school, and then later get professional and all that. So that's why it's very important that you have job opportunities. The economy has to create jobs for the sake of the citizenry, and that also, of course, sorts out so many things that could go wrong in any economy. Like we saw in Iran, guys are rising up, protest left, right, and center, because the economy is not doing well, right? So with that understanding, let's go to our technicals. Let's do a bit of analysis. Let's see where the markets are going. So I'll be sharing my MT5. Oh, yeah. Okay. GBP/USD has come to an area I had anticipated. Interesting. Okay. So this was my analysis on GBP/USD on Thursday. no, actually on Monday, sorry. On Monday, I had anticipated that GBP USD would be bullish, hit this area or this area before coming down. So we can see it has hit one of my areas, which was a support, sorry, resistance. And this resistance was on the H4. So if we go to H4, we want to see which area is this. I had anticipated this order block. You see this area? This is a bearish order block, the last bullish candle before a drop that broke this structure. So this is an area with some sellers, and that's why you can see the reaction of the candles, right? You can see them closing in a week. However, I would want to see price come up. I would want to see price test this order block. These are the ones. So I had defined two areas, either here, that H4 4-hour time frame order block, or these H1 order block, 37.48, 37.50, call it 37.50, 7.48. Why 50? There's something called the quarter points. Yeah. 00, 25, 50, 75, 00 again. So I'm looking at this area being tested. The moment we hit for 37.58, so let's reanalyze this. We could potentially see some sells. Maybe we can go to the daily time frame. So if we go to H4, there's also another order block here of interest. If GBPUSD was to go all the way to that 796, let's say a high impact news comes up, it would, if it were to pin this area, we could potentially see a drop. But since we don't expect a high impact news, but unless something happens, you can never rule it out in this day and age of Trump. So let's go to H1. This is what I'm looking at. That right there. Yeah, that's an area of interest for me on GBPUSD. So I would want to see how GBPUSD reacts to this high, this order block on H1. Right. Then if it gives me my confirmations, because I want to look at the confirmations on lower time frames. If you've been attending our classes, you know these confirmations that you're looking at the 70 area. Right. So I want to see a push to this 70 area. So if that plays out, courtesy of that bullish move, then I would now anticipate a drop. And so that would be my analysis. If I go to M5, maybe that would be take profit 1, 45 pips. Alternatively, I could be looking at a further dip of this pair to yesterday's low. The weekly low, this is the low that was set up on Monday. Those are areas of interest for me on GBP USD. As a day trader, I'm looking at these as a day trader. So we have how many pips drop? 123 pips drop. That will be my outlook on GBP USD. I want to see how it reacts to that order block. Right? If it gives me the confirmations, if I see a bearish candlestick pattern here, if I see bearish engulfing, if I see shooting star, if I see what else? Evening star, if I see bearish tweezers, if any of those patterns play out the moment price hits this area, then that becomes a high probability sell trade. That's GBP USD. Let's look at USD CHF. So initially on Monday, I had anticipated a possible drop maybe to this area before going up. So this was my take profit area. And if you go to the daily, we will see why when price hit this area, there was a drop of how many pips? 64 pips, right? What was here? Let's go to the daily. So I'd anticipated that price will pin this candle over here, right? To officially close that gap. So USD CHF did so. Moving forward, let's reanalyze this. What are we expecting on USD CHF? So I'm still bullish. I'm looking at a bullish USD CHF. One area of interest is the weekly high, the high that was set up on Monday. This one, that's a possible buy area. Sorry, take profit area. So for now, maybe we could see USD CHF test maybe yesterday's low before going up, or it could go up from this level where it is currently. There's a possibility of us seeing that 60 pips move. But long term, I would want to see USD CHF come to this order block here. There's also a moving average that could act as an exit area. So those are possible areas on USD CHF. So if price was to come down and test yesterday's low, then I'll be looking at a potential bullish move to that high. Let's look at Audi USD. If you go to Audi USD, go to higher time frames. I want to map this order block here that is yet to be tested, that 153. Yeah, that one, is it 58? Huh? That 158. That's an area of interest for me on Audi USD. However, I would want to map out this area. That area is a possible resistance. We have that, and also that one. Those two areas are key, where we have some strong sellers. However, I would probably work with this one for an intraday. A possible bullish move. And then from there, we could see, I can see another block somewhere here on H1. So 70.55, 70.59, those are two areas on Audi USD where we have some potential sellers. So I would really want to see how Audi USD reacts to these two areas. And if we get there, maybe we could see some drop intraday. Yeah, some 50 pips drop, something of the sort. That's not bad for a day trader. Okay, let's look at Euro USD. Always go to higher time frames to have a better understanding of where the market is going. So we can see how this closed quite strongly. All right, so let's see what price is doing on H4. Let me map out this order block. That one. 1851. Call it 1850. 1850 is a very interesting area for Euro USD. there are some potential sellers there. And we can also see a moving average that could potentially act as some resistance at what? At 1842. That's an 8 pips drop. Yeah, so those are key areas. Remember your work as a trader is to map your areas. Just map your areas and wait for price to get there. So having mapped those areas, I would want to see Euro USD come up to test these areas. And then probably I'll be looking at a short opportunity. There's also the weekly high. This is the high that was set up on Monday. This is also an area with some potential sellers. So those are key areas for Euro USD. So if Euro USD was to breach these two areas, then the next area that we have some strong sellers is there. And from there, we could potentially see a drop. One area where there's some take profit is here, the Asian low. The other one is yesterday's low. The other one is the weekly low. So those are potential areas on Euro USD. So my work will be to sit on my hands, wait for price to come up and test those areas. If it gets here and gives me a 70 on the other side, then it gives me a confirmation. All I need to do is wait for the bearish candlestick patterns. Can I see bearish engulfing? Can I see evening star? Can I see shooting star? Can I see bearish tweezers? And if you've ever attended our classes, you already know of these confirmations that we look at. Don't miss out today's class if you're a beginner, right? If you don't know anything about trading, make sure to register. On this video, there's below it, there's learn to trade, right? Go register for the evening class, the 8 to 9 p.m. class, and you'll definitely find someone there who will train you, and you'll have a strategy that tells you buy here, sell here with these confirmations. Okay, that's Euro USD. Let's have a look at gold. Initially on Monday, yes, on Monday I was bullish and had anticipated that. So I was looking at this bullish move, and I wanted gold to hit this area and then sell. Right, that was the reason as to why that was a potential area, was because of this order block. But now we can see gold has gone up. Let's see the next area on gold. Where would we want to see gold go to? Go to higher time frames. This is a potential area on gold. 51.76. That's a very strong almost 1,000 pips, huh? Yeah, that's an area on gold where I would want to see gold get to before considering any downward move. So I'm still bullish on gold. I'm still bullish on gold. If we get there, then we could potentially see some sellers coming in, but then it's based on confirmations. Okay, let's look at NZD USD. NZD USD, in most cases, it follows what AUD USD is doing. So here there's a potential area with sellers. on that moving average, 60.76 on the weekly chart. So let's go down to our time frames, H4. So what's interesting to note is this order block here, you can see initially acted as some resistance. That was yesterday, right? You can see the resistance courtesy of the order block here. So how will NZD USD act? I'll still look at a potential bullish move to this area. If it gave us this bullish move, then that will give me some strong confirmation, because this is from the weekly. That will give me a strong confirmation to enter a sell, and on this sell, I would probably be looking at that drop. The drop here will be this order block. I'll be looking at that one. So that is a hot poop, 72 pips move. 72 pips move on NZD USD. That's a strong area on this particular setup. So let's see how it behaves. But it could potentially go up. You know, it's following what these other pairs doing. It's always following what AUD USD is doing. So if AUD USD hits current 25 pips move, we have a 25 pips move to 70.59, right? 25 pips move, yeah, or 67. So almost there. It's almost there. So let's see how that reacts. US 30, we were looking at a bearish scenario. I had anticipated that this pair will get here. This was as a result of what? Let's go to H4. Last week's low. This was last week, right? I had anticipated that US 30 will get to test the previous week low. But that didn't play out, didn't really get there. So what price did, is that it came to the H4. Instead of testing this area, last week's low, that one, it tested the order block. This one. So let's see. You can see the first hit to this area, it was a bullish candle. Came back, tested that area, and eventually it was a bullish move. So I'm still bullish on US 30. Interesting, on the daily, there's also a moving average. So I'm still bullish on US 30, especially now that there's no shutdown. Partial shutdown has been cleared. So that's a target I would want to see tested by US 30. So potential bullish move. Let's look at UT 100 as we wrap up. So this is last month's low, an area of interest on Nasdaq. So if this sell will continue, then let's map out an area here, this candle here. This is a very strong bullish order block. The last bearish candle before a move up that broke this structure. All right, so if this if price was to continue with this downward move, then I would probably want to see it test one, yesterday's low. See this one, yesterday's low. We also have the weekly low, the low that was set up on Monday. That's also a potential area with buyers. But then the one that offers a more solid buy area is this order block we've just mapped out, or this area. Those are the key areas I'm looking at on UT100. If we hit this low, then I potentially look at a very bullish move on UT, Nasdaq, to test the high of January or the year's high. So let's see how that plays out. Which pairs would you want us to analyze? Let me see. Any questions? Let me see. Okay. Why is JPY weak? Okay. I've not had a look at JPY. Let me see. There could be some fundamentals. JPY has been going through a lot. In the country, inflation is going up. It's quite messed up. Yeah, you can see that bullish move, right? So it held support on the moving averages, and then we can see a bullish push. Let me see something here. What did USD JPY encounter? We have another block there. We have another order block here. Didn't really pin it. Instead, it pinned the moving averages. Okay. So the fundamentals in Japan are quite tricky, right? Things are almost getting out of hand, right? Japan has not been in such a scenario for the longest. So it's something that we really need to see how we need to keep following up and see where this will lead us to. You know, when you don't have prior data, at times it becomes hard to anticipate some of these moves, right? And if you're looking at trades, and I normally say if you're trading, don't try and force trades. If you can't get a clear directional bias, don't force it, right? You force it, then guys tried forcing gold last week and silver, right? You know, everyone was like, it's buy, it's buy, it's buy with confidence. And we all know what happened. So never force trades. Just take trades that are very clear according to your trading plan. The assumption here is that you have a trading plan. You know, one that tells you buy here because of 1, 2, 3, right? So you're no longer gambling. Unlike most guys who were doing gold last week, they just came into the market, boom, it was buy. Everyone says it's a buy, keeps buying, and of course, people are punished. So be disciplined enough to follow your trading plan. Yeah. That's the best thing that you could probably do. So I don't have a clear-cut directional bias on USD JPY, in all honesty. I don't know whether it's bullish. Yeah, but from where I sit, still looks bullish, right? Maybe if I identify a sell area, will probably be here. potential area with sellers will be that area. Let's see, do we have something on H1? Yeah, that's an area of interest for me on USD JPY here. That's the only time I will probably consider a possible drop. But anything here looks bullish to me. In any case, I wouldn't enter such a trade because it can easily get somewhere here and start selling, because I can't see an area with sellers. Yeah, there's someone who will tell me, oh, I can see a fair value gap somewhere around here. It's okay, could work, right? That's also a possible area. Some possible resistance over here. So let's see how USD JPY plays out. Best way to trade the metal. Which metal, Esther? Sorry. Rufus, we just talked about the volatility on gold. I'm still bullish. I'm still looking at a bullish scenario on gold until we get some resistance somewhere over here. And then probably from there, we could encounter some, let's see. This right here is an order block, right? Was it the one that was tested by gold before going up? No, gold didn't hit that area. So when fundamentals are in play, at times you'll find price not hitting your areas. So what do you do in such a scenario? You confirm. Yes, price has gone through maybe your area of support or resistance. You either decide, hey, is this my trading plan? No. Sit out. Stay away from that pair. Because at the end of the day, capital preservation should be your main goal. You need to preserve your capital so that the next time a trading opportunity appears, you're able to take advantage of it. Rather than take a trade, blow your account, and the next time an opportunity is coming up, you don't have the funds, right? So enter trades that for longevity, we need to have that longevity, consistency, like where you're having some progress. Be disciplined enough. And this is when you'll hear guys say trading is more psychological than even your analysis, right? If you are able to say, hey, I'm so disciplined enough, I'm not going to enter trades until they meet my conditions, you'll ace it. You could end up taking 2 trades, 3 trades, but those trades are so awesome, right? Rather than you're over trading, taking trades left, right, and center, but at the end of the day, you don't have money. See, in biashara, this is a business, right? You're here to make some money. So if you keep overdoing it, of course, there are chances where you'll have it's a burnout, yeah, and yeah, you won't make much, and you end up giving up because you can't see any fruitful thing coming out of this. Silver, let's see XAG USD. Do I have it or I need to add it? Should be somewhere here. Here you go. You can see the bullish move on gold and a similar bullish move on silver. Just like I've said on gold, I would probably want to see a continuation of that move. Maybe if we get to these moving averages, we'll encounter some resistance. Remember, if you look at silver from here, yeah, November, this was November 2025. Support on the moving averages, right? Every time silver came to the moving average, it was rejected. So that tells you the power of the moving average when used in the right context. Very important when used in the right context. Yeah, you can also see the close. It's the close above the moving average on silver. So I would want to see how it reacts to this moving average when we get here. Then from there, then we could probably see some potential sell, or it could breach it and continue going up. But that is a possible exit if you're looking for buys on silver. Remember, there was uncertainty with the government shutdown. Trump, like I said earlier, Trump has already signed the bill, so that has been cleared. That uncertainty probably could be the reason why for the 4 days there was that bullish move. Now, with no uncertainty, do we really need to keep buying gold and silver? I have no idea. Let's see how traders, investors interpret that. Because remember, gold and silver will always be bullish when there's uncertainty. It explains this bullish move, right? Those days when the government was on shutdown. That could explain there was that uncertainty. Guys were like, oh, okay, what's really happening? Let's move our money from the dollar and put it into gold, right? And silver. So with that having been cleared 10 hours ago, let's see what pans out moving forward. Any other question I have not covered as we wrap up? So let's do a recap of everything. USD CHF, I'm looking at a bullish scenario, and those are the targets. GBP USD, I'm looking at a potential bullish move and then a bearish move. AUD USD, I'm looking at a potential bullish move to these areas and then a potential sell as intraday. Euro USD, I'm looking at a potential move to these areas, but most likely here 1850 and then a possible sell. Then again, the market will surprise you. Gold, I'm still bullish, and that will be a target on gold. Potentially could also hit this area. NZD USD, we are looking at a potential bullish move, and then later maybe we could see some bearish move. US 30 bullish, UT 100 possible drop and then bullish. USD JPY, a continuation of the bullish move to this area or this one. Silver, a bullish move. That's it. For more on our classes, make sure that you register under this video. There's learn how to trade. Go to that link, attend either the beginners class or the mentorship class. Yeah, from 10 to 11 a.m. So there was already a class that was ongoing. Otherwise, bye-bye. Have a fruitful week.